people don't actually care about your story until you've helped them. After you have helped them accomplish something, they're really more interested in knowing more about you and getting to know you and being close. You're leading with the assumption that they care about you and want to know your story when you haven't invited them into a story that helps them.
If you have ever struggled to explain what your business does, or you felt like your marketing should be converting better than it is, this might be the most valuable 2 days you spend this year. StoryBrand Your Business Live. It's a 2-day in-person workshop happening May 7th and 8th in Nashville. That's not a conference, it's a working session where you will build clear messaging for your business, create 5 survival sound bites that you can use immediately, and get direct feedback from StoryBrand certified guides who are in the room with you until your message actually makes sense to customers. So far, all of this year's workshops have sold out, so don't miss your chance to attend this May. If you want marketing and messaging that is simpler, clearer, and more effective, just go to storybrand.com/live and join us in Nashville this May. You're listening to the StoryBrand podcast, based on Donald Miller's best-selling book, Building a Story Brand. The StoryBrand framework is made up of 7 key elements, all of them anchored in one powerful idea. Your customer is the hero, and you are their guide. Each week on the podcast, you'll get exactly what you need to craft clear messaging that connects with more customers and grows your business. Now, let's dive in with your host, Donald Miller.
If you're listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, you have bought into the idea that story is everything when it comes to growing your business. What I mean by that is if you invite customers into a story rather than just spit facts at them, customers engage, customers understand what problems you can solve for them, customers buy your products. Couple questions though, where do you put these stories and how do you actually write them? Well, today we're going to talk about AI prompts, artificial intelligence prompts, that will help you transform all of your copy, that is your landing pages, your websites, your lead generators, even your product descriptions, so that they are narrative and invite customers into a story. This will make the process go much more quickly, and it'll be very, very effective for you. So there's prompts that I use when I am working with a client and trying to understand how to invite their customer into a story. I want to share those prompts with you today. All right, here are the prompts. You're going to go to Claude. Claude is a really good one. StoryBrand.ai is mine, also a very good one. Do some of this for you. ChatGPT, not quite as effective, I think, in writing, but you want to go to your AI platform of choice, and you want to actually take existing copy first. So let's say that you have somewhere written down the story of your company. Everybody wants to tell the story of their business. I think it's not very important to tell the story of your business. I think it's much more important to tell the story of why your business cares about your customer and why your business is good at solving their problem, which probably has nothing to do with your grandfather starting a company 75 years ago. Basically, what I'm saying there is it's really important that the customer find themselves in your story. So, for example, if you asked me, Don, tell me the story of StoryBrand, and you are a customer or a potential customer, I am not going to tell you the story of StoryBrand. I'm not going to say, well, years ago I was in Portland, Oregon, and I was a writer, and I wrote all these memoirs, and I had to study story in order to understand how to write a better memoir. I became something of a story, aficionado. I'd taken so many courses and read so many books about it. And then, Accenture called and wanted a project management piece of curriculum. They knew I was an expert at story, so they asked me, can you run those ideas, the ideas of story through a project management curriculum? And then I did that, and it went really well. And then I thought, this works much better as a marketing thing. So at this point, your eyes are rolling over, right? They're glazing over. You're not interested. And so in order for me to, quote, make you think I'm telling my story, but actually do something very different, invite you into a story where you want to do business with me, I want to change the elements. And what I need to do instead is say, well, years ago, I had a product. It was a conference company. And I held conference after conference, and the auditorium was only half full. I'd written best-selling books. There's no reason for the auditorium to be half full. And so I realized that what I was doing was I was telling people why they should come to the conference or telling the story of the conference, but not inviting them into a story where they're the hero and I'm the guide and they come to this conference in order to accomplish something that helps them win the day. So I created this framework that I filtered everything through, and that became StoryBrand, the StoryBrand framework. What happened to the conference? We went from half full auditoriums to standing room only to wait lists. All I did was change the copy, and that was the foundation of the StoryBrand framework. And now I can use that framework to sell anything, to sell, if you're selling plungers, I can help you sell plungers. And that's the story of StoryBrand. Is it the story of StoryBrand? No. It's the story of the product that the customer is interested in and how they can use that product to win the day. That's what it is. It's part of it. If you ask Dave Ramsey, hey, what's your story? I mean, what do you mean? What's his story? Like he's married, he's got kids, he went to, University of Tennessee, he's a big Vols fan. Yeah, what part of he doesn't tell any of that. What he says is years ago, I went bankrupt because I had stupid financial practices and read the book of Proverbs and realized this is pretty simple. Just don't have debt, and obey some ancient principles. And now I've turned that into baby steps. It's a formula that you can use to run your money and filter your money and navigate the whole complex world of money. And I teach that through this. You think he's telling his story, but he's not. He's actually telling your story. You have terrible financial practices. It's causing you a lot of stress. Here, use these baby steps that I came up with so that you can have more money in the bank and more financial peace. And at the end of the day, won't be an idiot who has terrible practices and doesn't have any money. He's got a villain, right? The villain is credit card companies. They're trying to get you. You think he's telling his story, but he's not. He's actually inviting you into a story. Why does this matter? This matters because people don't actually care about your story until you've helped them. After you have helped them accomplish something, they're really more interested in knowing more about you and getting to know you and being close. You're leading with the assumption that they care about you and want to know your story when you haven't invited them into a story that helps them. So in telling your business story, in your CEO's signature keynote, in your product descriptions on your landing page, you want to actually invite people into a story. So here's the prompt on how to do it. First, you actually tell Claude or ChatGPT or StoryBrand.ai, tell them the website that you want to rewrite. Say, look, I want you to give me a new wireframe for this website. Or you enter in your current product description on Amazon, wherever it is. And you say, I want you to rewrite this product description, but I want you to use this prompt. And here's the prompt. I want you to start with the problem. Start with the problem this product solves. Then, I want you to agitate the problem on an emotional level. In other words, the problem that this product solves is this, but the emotion that I feel because I have this problem is this: anxiety, being overwhelmed, whatever. And then, this is number 3, problem, feeling as a result of the problem, negative feeling as a result of the problem. The specific need stated as a thesis statement, right? So in movies, you'll see a thesis statement. Nicolas Cage almost looks at the camera and says, they're going to try to steal the Declaration of Independence and we have to stop them. What did he do? He basically said, here's what the story is about. So specific needs stated as a thesis is a prompt inside of AI so that it will spit out, you've tried normal plungers before and they just don't work and they're messy and they're disgusting. We need a better plunger. That's what it's going to spit out when you ask for that specific thesis statement. This removes cognitive dissonance and decreases cognitive load in the mind of the person who is reading the product description or the product copy. So specific needs stated as thesis is number 3. Number 4, your product positioned as the solution. So right after the we need a better plunger, our plunger, your product stated as the solution to the problem. All right, number 5, stakes. If you don't buy it, here's the bad thing that's going to happen. If you do buy it, here's the great thing that's going to happen. Stakes are the fifth element of this messaging framework. Then CTA. The call to action needs to be specific. I want you to use this formula. If you are struggling with X, then purchasing Y is the right decision. If you are tired of ineffective, messy plungers, buying our plunger is the right decision. That's how you're going to word the CTA, and you need to put it in the prompt. And then finally, at the end, the seventh element is a positive end result, the happy ever after. Because you buy our plunger, it works quick, much more clean, less chaos, and it hardly costs you any more money than a regular plunger, right? So let me repeat them all again. You start with the problem. Then you agitate the problem through a feeling. Your problem is making you feel this way. This hooks the reader. The problem hooks the reader, and then when you agitate the problem and make it emotional, it hooks them even further. It opens the story loop. Because as they're reading this product copy or going down this landing page, they're going, oh, that's a problem. I wonder how they're going to solve this. Ooh, this is a bigger problem than I thought. I really wonder how they're going to solve this. Specifically, here's the need that we have as the reader, and it sounds like your product could be the solution to this problem, and the stakes are very high. If I don't solve this problem, bad things are going to happen. If I do solve this problem, great things are going to happen. Then the call to action is very, very specific, reducing cognitive load. If you have this problem, buying Y is the right decision. Why do I say it's the right decision? Because that's the hang up. Your customer is actually wondering, well, should I buy it or shouldn't I? And you're actually saying, yes, you should. You're doing the thinking for them. Yes, you should buy it. And then because you buy this, your life is going to look wonderful. It's going to look like this. Those are the elements of a story. The basic elements of a story are a hero falls into a hole, a guide comes along, empathizes with the hero, throws a rope in the hole. The hero climbs out of the hole. The hero has changed and transformed because they had to go through the struggle. They are a better version of themselves, and they live happily ever after. That's every story. That's every movie you've ever watched. That's every story you've ever read, unless it was a tragedy and then the hero failed to change or died in the hole. But most stories don't end that way. That's every story that you've ever seen. And that's what you want to capture inside of your product descriptions, your product copy, inside of your, on your landing page, your CEO keynote, the story of your actual business. That's the formula. Now, why is this formula so important? Here's why it's so important. The average human brain daydreams 30% of the time that it's on the planet. The average human brain just walks around and starts thinking about things, has trouble paying attention, eyes glaze over. I mean, you've driven down the street before and gone 3 miles and without realizing you've been even driving. That is your brain daydreaming. And the reason the brain daydreams, there's one reason. There's nothing for it to think about associated with its survival. The human brain is a survival machine. It is designed to keep you on the planet, and it's very, very good at it. That's why you look both ways before you cross the street. That's why if your spidey senses sense that somebody might not be safe, you distance yourself from them. That's why when you smell something that smells putrid, you don't drink it, because your spidey senses go, this will not help me survive. This may be a survival liability instead of an asset. So your brain is constantly looking for survival assets and constantly rejecting survival liabilities. When you frame your product descriptions, when you frame your landing page, when you frame your keynote as in the framework that I just gave you, you sense that there is something in here that is going to help me survive. And you start paying attention. You engage. It works like magic. It is the only tool known to the human brain that can stop you from daydreaming for 10, 20, 30 minutes, 50 minutes, hours. You know, I learned this. I learned the power of this just recently, or at least it was affirmed recently. I was reading Stephen King's book on writing. He has a book called On Writing. And the first part of the book is just his memoir about being a writer. And then the second part of the book is advice on how to write well. And I've read this book, I don't know, 3 to 5 times. I'm reading it again now. So I'm on my 5th or 6th reading. I don't know. I've read it a lot. I noticed something really fascinating at the beginning of the book. He says at the beginning of the book, I'm a writer. It's very hard to understand, even for myself, to understand how I became a writer. So I'm just going to give you little snapshots from my childhood and my writing life that I think helped me develop into a writer. How they did that, can't exactly connect it all, but that's what I'm going to give you. And then the second half of the book, I'm going to give you tips and strategies on how you can do this. And immediately he starts into these stories. And these stories are stories like, you know, I was raised by a single mom and we lived in this cheap apartment. And I remember a story where I was locked in the bathroom and I had locked myself in the bathroom because my brother was on the roof and I was trying to get him through the bathroom window. And it was like a 4-story apartment complex. He could have died. What in the heck does that story have to do with him becoming a writer? Let me tell you what it has to do with him becoming a writer. Nothing. What is it then? It's a story, and it's a good story. His brother could fall off the roof. The neighbors are calling the police because somebody's on the roof. The mom's not home. She doesn't know where his mom is. He's trying to get him through the door. A good writer understands the power of just telling a frickin' story. I mean, that changed my understanding, and I'm, 15 books in now. I don't know how many books I've written. I'm a lot of books in. And I literally realized I could write a book that's just a memoir about how I got into business and started a company and grew a company. And I don't even have to do anything except for tell interesting stories that are loosely connected to having become a capitalist. That's it. And I actually started writing this book just for fun because I'm realizing, is it really this easy? You just have to tell stories that are loosely connected. Yes. Why? Because the human brain cannot turn away from a good story. It just can't do it. Is the brother going to get off the frickin' roof as the cops coming? Where the hell is mom? Right? I mean, it's open story loop after open story loop after open story loop. That's how powerful story is. And if you can take every aspect of your business, your landing page, your keynote address, your webinar, the live stream that you're about to do, the open house as a real estate agent, walking people through the open house, and you can harness the power and the formulas that make good stories, people have no choice but to pay attention to you. No choice. And I think you ought to use it. So let me summarize this. And AI, by the way, is making it easier and easier for you to do this, right? Let me summarize it again. Let me give you the prompt. Start with the problem. What is the problem this product solves? What is the problem my customer has as it relates to this product or this brand or even me as a leader, if you're a politician or a leader? Next, what negative feeling is this problem causing in my life? And use this to agitate the problem and make it worse. Next, state the specific need this product solves as a thesis statement inside of this product copy or on this landing page or inside of this keynote address I'm giving. Then, finally, by the way, we're on the 4th. Most people start with the product. We're on the 4th element because we've got to earn the right to talk about this product. And this product needs to be positioned as valuable. And it's only going to be positioned as valuable if it solves a specific problem, and that problem is also emotional. So then, position the product as the solution to this problem. Then, 5th, give me the stakes. The positive and negative stakes that are in play, at stake, as to whether or not I buy this product. What terrible thing is going to happen to me if I don't? What wonderful thing is going to happen to me if I do? Then call them to action with a specific formula. If you are struggling with X, purchasing Y is the right decision. And then finally, paint a picture of the beautiful reality that I could experience if I buy this product, the beautiful end to this story. If you use this formula to do all sorts of things, wireframe a landing page, write a sales email, create a sales pitch deck to click through, give a webinar or a live stream, create a YouTube video. If you use the formula that I just gave you, you'll engage more people. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. All right. Hope this episode of the StoryBrand podcast has helped you build your business. I hope that you have great success inviting people into a story. And if you don't use story, people are going to ignore you. If you do use it, people will pay attention. See how I just used stakes there? Your call to action? If you're wondering how to invite customers into a story, using this formula is the right decision. And if you do it, your business is going to grow. Literally just went through the last 3 elements of this. All right, everybody. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the StoryBrand podcast. No matter where you are in your marketing and messaging journey, get the tools, the training, and the support you need to start clarifying that message at StoryBrand.com. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and then leave a comment letting us know what resonated with you and what we can unpack to help your business grow in a future episode. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.